If you wanted to attend Donald Trump's campaign fundraiser in Houston this past Wednesday, a ticket would have cost you a whopping $250,000. This was obviously not an event that was marketed to working class or ordinary Americans, but specifically to oil tycoons. At that very fundraiser, Trump promised the big oil executives in the room more drilling and even fewer regulations. All they had to do, Trump said, was to be generous, please. Well, they complied. Trump's big oil fundraiser raked in $25 million for his campaign in just one day. Joining me now is Faz Shakir, former campaign manager for Bernie Sanders' 2020 presidential campaign and founder and executive director of More Perfect Union. Faz, thank you for joining me, man. What a study in contrast. Biden's war against junk fees and Trump's promises to a room full of the ultra wealthy.
Alex, that's not the only fundraiser, and it's been a pattern with Trump. He actually held a fundraiser at John Paulson, who's a hedge fund billionaire's house a few months ago, said, we'll lower your taxes. Just make sure you give money to us. And by the way, we're speaking on a day when today he secured the endorsement of a guy named Stephen Schwarzman, one of New York's wealthiest people, one of the biggest and richest persons in the world who controls so much of the housing market. He says, I endorse Donald Trump because his direction for the economy would be better. Why do they all love that, Alex? What is it that the billionaire class loves?
What is it,
Donald
Faz?
Trump?
What is it? What do they like so much about Donald Trump?
Right now, you have the Chamber of Commerce, you've got major credit card companies, you've got Ticketmaster, as you mentioned, you've got big oil companies all fighting Joe Biden in court. They're fighting an agenda that is working on behalf of the people. You see a billionaire class is pretty upset. That why would you dare to challenge our business practices that give us so much wealth? When you go in and challenge Ticketmaster's business monopoly, when you challenge a Kroger and Albertsons merger, when you challenge Apple's monopoly over the iPhone market, why are you guys doing that? Get out of our way. And here's the Biden administration fighting the people's fight, saying this is a basic fight, people versus the powerful. We're going to enact a government that is going to take the side of the working class. And that story is what is going on. You see the billionaire class revolt against it. And I hope that more people out there know that Biden is taking on these courageous fights on their behalf.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's talk about that for a minute, because it's clear that the Biden administration is doing this because of a sort of ethical drive, right? This is a wrong thing that's happening. This is, the American worker is being screwed over, pardon my French, at the hand of big corporate profits. It is also very clearly a proxy war against inflation, is it not, Faz? I mean, the Biden administration keeps getting hit on the economy for reasons that have to do with a lot more than just the economy, and needs to show that they are concerned about inflation, that they care about how much money Americans are having to shell out on a daily basis. Is this the best way to do it?
Yeah, well, I mean, inflation in general, as we know, part of the major story there is that corporate America has too much control over the ability to jack up your prices, and they have taken advantage of that. One of the most important things we learned in the past few weeks was brought to us by the Federal Trade Commission, in which they said that there was collusion going on in which domestic oil producers, namely a guy named Scott Sheffield, who heads one of the most important oil industry here in America, was colluding with OPEC across the seas, saying, let's keep prices high out of the pandemic. They come out of the pandemic and they say, let's keep prices high. And that, when you think about when oil is kept high, what happens to the rest of the economy? Well, you have a trickle-down effect all over the place where everybody else's cost of transportation goods goes up. And here you had the FTC referred this case to the DOJ for criminal prosecution. Here you have the Biden administration going after criminally illegal price fixing. Is it going to solve the problem immediately? No. But there is going to be accountability over people who price gouged Americans. And that's as much as you can ask at this moment, because the structural problem of corporate America having too much power to control your prices is not easy to fix. But the unrigging of the American economy is what Joe Biden is after, and he's doing a good job of it. And obviously Donald Trump is promising a different course of action, which is, hey, why don't we side with big business and just let them do whatever the hell they want?
Well, really, honestly, re-rig the economy.
Yeah.
It's like the unrigging versus re-rigging. I mean, Biden's also canceling a lot of student loan debt, which is something, honestly, that does not get covered as much as it should. But I do wonder if you think these measures are reaching the people they need to, right? I mean, concert fees, credit card fees, airline fees, that's reaching a certain subsection of the American, working class, of the American electorate. Student loan debt is another. Together, is this holistically reaching the number of people, the kinds of people that are not already on the side of Joe Biden?
Not yet, but I think there's 5 to 6 months to go here, and I think there's a zeitgeist out there, Alex, about people in the working class who, understandably, coming out of the pandemic, pretty frustrated, feeling economically precarious. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily, doing poorly economically, but feeling uncertain, unsure, a malaise of a kind of affecting their behavior and the mood. And I think while there are people, you have to meet people where they're at. If you're feeling frustrated about an economy, you don't go and tell them everything is amazing. You level with them about the fact that there's a fight to be had here about whether and who to trust to try to fix this economy on your behalf. Who has the credibility to lower prescription drug prices, to go after big oil companies when they collude, to go after major food producers and meat packers when they are gouging prices on you? Who's going to do that? And I think if that's the choice posited, that's why these debates are going to be so important, because I don't know what Donald Trump thinks about a Ticketmaster lawsuit. Do you? We haven't heard him talk about any of this stuff. And I'm hoping that once Joe Biden is able to present, here's a course on the economy that I am taking, that I am on a certain track, and I'm asking you for more time to work on this, versus that guy who wants to lower taxes for billionaires and wants to give them the rule of the roost again. I think that choice has not yet been clarified, and partly because they haven't engaged each other on their respective plans, and I'm hoping that happens here very, very soon.
June 27th, we're looking at you. Maybe once Cats tickets go on sale on Ticketmaster, Donald Trump will have an opinion. His favorite musical. Faz Shakir, thank you again for your time this Friday night and your general enthusiasm about what is possible. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Alex.